What's up, everybody? This is JD Shabazz. Today, man, it's a special one today. And we're going to talk about the Ausarian Drama. So, man, this is a good one. So I'm going to try to tell it right. I want to take my time and try to make sure I get this out right. And I want to let everybody know if you have any questions about anything, and just let me know. Talk to me. I'm here for you. So it takes time, and you got to open your mind a little bit when it comes to this. You can't stay stuck in what they call cognitive dissonance, when it comes to what you may believe, because things have origins to it, and we've been on this earth for a long time, and they had a lot of different traditions and myths that, they went by and they followed, throughout that time, but I mentioned that there was a story of the virgin birth that was told 12 times throughout this history, and the Ausarian Drama is the first story that was ever told, when it came to the virgin birth. So let's give it a shot, let's talk about this. So here we go. So what is the Ausarian Drama? The Ausarian Drama is the first African comedic trinity, which is God, woman, and man. This story is a myth, a dramatization story about Asar, which is, in the Greek, he was known as Osiris. And then we have Aset. That is his wife that he married, in that time. And in the Greek, she was known as Isis. And then we have Haru. That's the child, Haru. In the Greek, he was known as Horus. And then we have Set. That is Asar's, evil brother. Also in the Greek, he was known as the Satan, but we'll get into it. The essence of this story is going to tell you the story of the system of cosmic life. That's the myth. But how do you explain the myth so it can be passed down? So it's a story about the redemption of the human spirit. Asar, which represents the living elements on earth. He sometimes is painted green. That represents the botanical world. When Asar is painted black, that represents the melanated human world. Okay, if that makes sense, we'll get into it. So, to start the story, Asar, he unified the two lands of Upper and Lower Kemet. He introduced agriculture, the ability of a nation of people to feed themselves. He is said to have introduced writing, known in that time as the meta-neter, divine writing, the same kind of language in what they call hieroglyphics that's found in the temples and in the pyramids. He also established a system in which a ruler can govern and secure the livelihoods of his people. Aset, that's Asar's love. He respected her deeply. He treated her as his equal. and even allowed her to rule in his kingdom whenever he would have to travel. So Asar would travel to other continents so he could teach his brothers and sisters that system he used to help lift them out of a darkness, so they could become part of this great and mighty walk of humanity. So when Asar left his wife, Aset, to run their nation, that angered his brother Set, who was very jealous of his brother Asar. He was upset that he would allow a woman to take on many roles in politics. So this story shows a conflict where the brother becomes jealous and envious because Asar is in harmony, in Mahat. Set, he represents the tendencies of disharmony. It's a concept known as cause and effect, expansion and contraction. This story is deep, man. So just hear it out, and then we can try to discuss it. Like I said, if you have any questions about this, we can get into this. Now, according to the story of this myth, this act of allowing Aset to run this nation angered Asar's brother Set, who represents the forces of Isfet, confusion, anger, evil, if you will, Set derives of the word Satan or Satan. Again, just so you know, all these words have meanings and they all break down. The forces of darkness. So Asar, also known as Osiris, represents the expansion of the world, and his brother Set represented the contraction of the world. That is a constant conflict in nature and in your mind. So Set tricks Asar into having a private meeting, and he murders Asar and dismembers his body into 14 different pieces and scatters them throughout the land. So when Aset learns about this murder of her husband, as you can imagine, she was deeply stricken with grief. So she went on a journey to find the missing pieces of her husband. So Aset found 13 of the 14 pieces of Asar's body. She then washed them, and literally she remembered them. So from there, she anointed him and all his parts with oil. She laid him on the table and wrapped the entire body in bandages, creating the first mummy in human history, thus creating Sahu. We'll get into that later. She embalmed and wrapped his body. It took Aset 70 days to prepare him for burial. So 70 days became the time frame for the process of mummification for over 3,000 years. And as Aset was about to bury her husband, she grieved because that was the man she truly loved. But she also grieved because she was still a virgin and never consummated their marriage. She grieved because she would never bear children by the man she truly loved. And there wouldn't be an heir to the throne. So she cried and prayed to the spirit of Asar. And she prayed to the God of all things to help her get through this very difficult time. And according to the story, the spirit of Asar heard Aset's prayers. So he came to her in the middle of the night and impregnated her. So Asar represented the masculine phenomenon in nature, the reproductive energy of man. So 9 months later, their son Haru was born. Also, Haru was born on the same day as his father, which is December 25th. So this feminine phenomenon in nature comes and regenerates the dead masculine phenomenon and allows it to replicate itself and reproduce even though it had been killed and dismembered. And so the son Haru is produced out of this fusion. And that's how she gave birth to Haru. And Haru rises up to avenge the death of his father. So when Aset learns about the birth, when Set, don't get it confused because some of these names kind of sound similar. So when Set learns about the birth of Haru, he sought out to kill every firstborn son. So Aset decided in order to save herself and the life of her son, she would have to flee. And she did just that. She fled into the wilderness and raised Haru. She taught him all about his father and the many things that he had done, and ultimately prepared him for the day he would have to do battle against his evil uncle Set. So Aset searched for the missing pieces of Asar. Aset being impregnated by the spirit of Asar, Aset giving birth to Haru amongst the bulrushes, which is when you have people coming to kill you. That's what bulrushes mean. And then preparing her son for his life's work. So in rising up to avenge the death of his father, Haru then has to fight Set. Again, Set later becomes the archetype for what we now call Satan. So Haru finally confronts Set and takes on evil, Isfet, darkness. So Haru is symbolized by light and Set is symbolized by darkness. So this child born from a virgin mother comes forth as the savior of the world. The very word hero comes from the word Haru. So now you have this battle between Haru and Set, good and evil. And in the process of this battle, Haru has to receive guidance from Jehuti. So Jehuti is the messenger of the Netchers, the messenger of the powers and principles, the heavenly host, who begins to instruct Haru on how to defeat Set. As a matter of fact, you can find this story laid out on the walls all over the temples in Edfu. And Edfu, that means dedicated to Haru. And it's still standing in Kemet today. So Haru spears Set in every part of his body that corresponds to the part of his father's body that was dismembered. And in the heat of this battle, Haru's eye is knocked out. And what that represents is the fact that he lost his spiritual vision, the third eye, in the heat of the battle. So Haru now has to reclaim his third eye, which we now call the Eye of Haru, the all-seeing enlightenment, the eye of all-seeing and enlightenment. That third eye allows us to see beyond the physical dimensions into the mental and spiritual dimensions. So after Haru defeats Set, he reclaims his father's throne. And as the myth goes, Haru was transformed into a falcon and flew into heaven to meet with his father Asar to tell him of his victory. So at that time, Haru became the king, the Nasut Bati, the high priest of the physical world of Kemet, and Asar became the Lord of Judgment in the spiritual world. So father and son ruled the physical world and the metaphysical world. They became the model for all human beings at that time and that age in Kemet. They became the pathway for life and that afterlife, and the afterlife, They became the pathway for life and the afterlife. So Haru is the resurrected savior in ancient Kemet tradition. We have a child born of an immaculate conception, Haru. That child then becomes the savior child that would go on to save the world. You know, I hate to say it, but this story has direct correlation to the story of Jesus. You know, and I want you to think about that. Because, you know, not to disrespect, you know, anybody, you know, but you have to think about this stuff there. When the letter J wasn't even created and introduced into the alphabet until 1524 AD. So when you put that together, his name couldn't even have been Jesus at that time. It could have been Yahshua, but why couldn't they say his name was Yahshua? Why couldn't they just tell us what his name was? And it amazes me that Christians don't know that story of Jesus was told 12 times throughout history, but the names changed and the faces changed. So what you're seeing is the family as the image of God. Because there is a father, Asar. The family is the image of God. Let me say that one more time. The family is the image of God. Why? Because only the male and female human can create and recreate. Nothing else on this earth can create besides for God. So that symbol of God is the force and the element of the female force of nature and the male force of nature coming together and creating themselves. The embodiment of that male and female is the child. Let me say that one more time. The embodiment of that male and female is the child they produce. This divine story of the divine Trinity is over 6,000 years old. I'm going to say that again. This Kemetic story of the divine Trinity is over 6,000 years old. Ethiopians, they still celebrate this tradition here, and this, so they celebrate this on September 11th every year. That's the first and the oldest actual New Year's ever because of this story. Also, I did want to mention there's a very popular symbol people know called the obelisk, but originally it's known as the Tekken. That represents the missing piece of Asar's body that was never found, his phallus. And the phallus is where everything is, man. The phallus represents, not trying to be vulgar, but that represents the man's penis. That part of Asar's body was never found. So the Tekken represents the resurrection of Asar. A good example of the Tekken is the Washington Monument that's right here in the United States. That represents Asar. And we have to know these things there, because this is our story, and it gets deep, man. So you have to think of it like, you ever played that game in school? And like I said, not trying to disrespect anybody, man, because people are devoted, but you have to think, man. You have to open up your mind, man. You have to really open up your mind and think about what's going on here, and how traditions get passed down. But there was an old game that was called telephone. And we played it in school, man, where you would, you would say a word and you would whisper in someone's ear. So you would say something like, the Ausarian Drama. And I would say it in someone's ear. And by the time it got to the end of the room, the story changed. What was said changed because people want to give their rendition. Sometimes people don't want to tell the story. Sometimes people suffer from self-aggrandizement, where they want to have and be respected for themselves, and have respect, and they want to be able to, they like, we don't want to honor this. We want to tell our story. Why we want to tell your story? When we the victors, we conquered you. Why would we want to tell your story? So, but you can see it right there. Like I said, the Washington Monument is an example of the Tekken, which is the resurrection of Asar. That piece represents his phallus. And that story of Haru and the eye, and you see it, the eye of Horus. You see it right there, but you see the symbols, but you don't really know what all this stuff means. Like I said, you see all these symbols, man. You see this right here, man. I'm going to show you again, man. One more time. I'm going to show you all this stuff here. There you go. That's an example of an anthropomorphic symbol that you see and you don't know what it means. You see right here, Kepre. That Kepre. And I got to mention this too, because I had to follow up on Kepre and what Kepre and that beetle means there, because that beetle is the dung beetle. It's the strongest creature on this planet in proportion to its size. It can carry 1,150 times its weight, and it can carry it for an infinite amount of time. And it's always moving towards the sun, moving towards knowledge and wisdom, and it provides a service. So the dung beetle, it resides, in areas there, but it loves to get the dung, whenever, like, when you get like wildebeests or you get zebras, and they come to different ponds and different areas to drink their water. While they're drinking, they're using the bathroom too. They're having bowel movements too, So in these fields, when they're drinking this water, the dung beetle, after they're all done, will come out, and it provides this service. Like I said, it goes and it picks up all of the dung, all of the bowels, of these animals there, and it balls it up into little balls there, and it puts it underground. And in the morning, it moves and it does this all day, and it's nonstop. So this little critter provides this service. So in the morning, when you wake up, that whole field is clean and clear, and all fresh and clean. So you don't smell any of the movement, the bowel movement. It's all fresh and clean for you. So that's a service that he provides. So, and like I said, he's always moving towards the sun. So that's why you see, again, the beetle. I'm gonna show you again. That's why this beetle right here represents Khepri. And he's holding the sun because he moves towards the sun, and he can work infinitely to provide this service. That's why he represents Khepri. All this stuff has meaning to it, but you have to really do your research for this stuff, But, man, this was a special one for me, because it's dear to my heart, man. This has been like a passion project for me, So I hope y'all, man, hear me out on what I'm saying. Like I said, I'm not trying to offend anybody, with anything, with any of this knowledge, but it's knowledge. And knowledge, again, is power. And this is what it's about, man, trying to understand what's going on out here and make sense of what's going on. And when I look at it, man, we've been getting kind of snippets of the story, but we haven't gotten a full picture of it. We're getting a Wallace-side picture of it. I want the full, the portrait. I want a full portrait of the story. And I'm trying to get there, and stay with your boy, man. We going to work through this together, man. And I ain't playing with this, man. We going to get to this. We going to get to the bottom of this, man, because we got to wake up. We got to get our stuff together, man. We got so much work to do, and we behind, man. We got to get this together, but this is going to enlighten us. This is going to help us to be able to move past this stuff so we can have some courage. I got a portrait right on my wall right now that says, "The righteous is as bold as a lion." So let's be righteous. Let's be bold. Let's be a lion. Let's roar, man. I love y'all, man. Let's do this.